Yes, welcome to the show. I'm reading a field report by one of the fellas put out. He writes, so last night I went out and partied. I got pretty wasted. Now, my point here is that you don't want to get wasted, fellas. The most you want to drink is 2 drinks, okay? I'm sorry, but we're about being players, not just dudes or scruffies in the club. We're above all that. So remember, as a player, you only drink 2 drinks because you got to keep your mind set. He continues, got pretty wasted and ended up dancing on a table with some girls. I wasn't trying to play them though, just have a good time. And the other thing I want to point out is that your only reason for going out is to hunt now. You're players now. Your only reason for going out there is not to have a good time. You're there to hunt and find a female. Every opportunity is an opportunity to find a female. He goes on to say, I've only worked through 9 of Supreme's 20-day dance program. I got compliments from 2 different girls on my dancing skills. And I was just fucking around, touching and popping my shoulders, taking the beat into my body. In my dance program, I talk about bringing the beat into your body. And basically, he was doing, the stuff that I was teaching him. He writes, one girl said, I'm really impressed by your dancing. Now, he's a white guy. And unfortunately, a lot of white guys can't dance. There's been a shift in that, though, because of the style of music that's out there. But still, there's still a lot of white guys who haven't caught up yet. He writes, that shit works. I didn't even realize how much my dancing has changed. If you don't have confidence on the dance floor, then he gives a link. Basically, the link is http://nightclubdancing.info. This one's actually to my nightclub pimping program, which is my tips on handling yourself in nightclub. Plus, I give you 5 days of dancing in there. What he really meant to put up was the actual dance program. Anyway, he goes, just do it. Okay, now let me go to another post. Okay, this is part 2. And I had to resize it because the fellow's face came in, his IP address showed up, and all that kind of stuff. So he writes, how are you doing, boss? This is not a book. I reread it. Increased font size for your eyes. Hope hearing from you. He had sent me an email before, and I think I must have forgot to respond to it. I do recall an email coming from this fella, and I don't know if I responded or not. Sometimes I get old. Hey, I do apologize. But he goes on to say, as I'm online, I wanted to share with you how reading the intro for the 7 steps really resonated with me. Here's why. 3 years ago, I was trying to fuck with this bitch from my uni class. We did a couple dates, Skyped and all that other stuff. She was going through some shit at the moment, as I remember. She told me she smoked pot. I would never get with her ass now, but read on. Our second or third date, we were walking through the old city. He lives in Europe. Beautiful European tourist parts of the city. Tried keeping her close, put my arm around her waist, but she was like, I don't want to be closer. I want to walk apart. Remember how you told me about the proud lion in the zoo? I'm like that. Our first date was in the zoo. I told her how I'm fascinated by big cats. It was before even tried looking for dating help online. So I told her we need to talk. I guided her into the first coffee store I saw. We sat down, I bought tea. It was autumn. Well, that's so European. Drinking tea. He goes on, I just sat down and started looking her in the eyes. I wanted to understand what was up with her. She asked me, what? What is it? Why are you looking at me like that? I just looked at her. Sometimes I'd reply, looking at what? It was very intense. I loved it. I don't know how long it lasted, but time almost slowed down. Then she started weeping. She excused herself to the bathroom. When she returned, I continued my thing. I really enjoyed it. She excused herself again and came back to finish the tea. I know it's probably because of all the fucked up shit she's been going through. I don't have any false ideas about my energy at the time, but it didn't matter then. I felt like I had broken my first wild stallion. This is the most manliest I've ever felt, as if I owned her, as if I owned her emotions. I felt like a puppeteer for a moment. I drove her home afterwards, and we made out in my car for a minute, but she stopped me from really groping her. Naturally, I want to try going to her apartment. I ended everything a couple days later because I didn't want to deal with her issues. She was a little bit fucked up. Here is her and me at a uni class almost 4 years ago, 19 at the time. But when I read Seven Steps, when you were talking about emotional vampires and how a player is really a damaged person, and that's not actually what I'm saying. A player is really a damaged person. Uh, a super player feeds off women's emotions. I've noticed that that's what I did. That's why I talk about how I had a hole in my heart. I've had a hole in my heart since I was a baby. Remember, in my life, mother abandoned me at 6 months of age. I never got that physical touching. I never got love from her growing up. So I tried to replace it from love from all those women. That's why I needed so many women on my team. The most you need on your team is 3. I continually had 6 to 8 on average. That's my average. And my extreme was 13. But I was trying to fill that, and I was feeding off their energy. Also, everything is about energy. Your relationships are about energy, and as players, we do feed on the energy of the drama, everything that goes on within these relationships, the sex, everything. It feeds us. It's not that I was a damaged person, but even when I fixed myself, I still continued to play because I enjoyed the interaction of having lots of women. Continuing, he goes, and that he wants to feed on female energy and emotions. That's when I knew this is my way. This when I knew I found someone who is like me and who can help me find my true self. Right now, I have to finish this semester at uni. I'm getting the master's degree in economics, so I'm quite busy, but I want to start with some things already. So if you can help me with these 2 things, boss, and list the 2 things you want to help with, basically my boot camp and put up an online profile. Now for this fella, he's a nice looking kid, so he should do well in the game. When it's time to get out the game, when you're about 30, then it's time to settle down and find a permanent female to be with. That's what I recommend for you young fellas. Have fun in your 20s, explore and date lots of women so you see what you really like. Whether if you like different types of women, find out what your best type is, and then when you get ready to settle down, that's what you want to settle with. So you have a better relationship for the rest of your life. The divorce rate is way too high here in the States and way too high in other places because people make the wrong choices. They get married for the wrong reasons. A lot of guys get married because they don't want to lose that girl, and she throws the ultimatum on them. When you don't have balls and you're afraid, and you're afraid to go out there, and you're not a good dater, which means you haven't conquered yourself yet, then of course it's going to be fear. You're going to be in fear of losing that girl, so you end up marrying her. And that's not the way you want to live your life. You shouldn't marry on a threat when someone throws up the ultimatum thing. You should have enough confidence and skill to always replace a woman because they can easily do it to you. All they got to do is go out to a nightclub. Guys are all over them, swarming like flies over shit. You're stuck there with no skills at being able to easily replace her. How many guys are in that situation? No skills to easily replace the woman, so you get needy with her, and you get dependent on her, because she's your source of happiness.